that you've put in already, and you can add a new one. If you've gone in and gotten a new score for a school, you can go ahead and put it in. But let's just take a look. So Northridge Elementary had a scorecard completed on September 18th, and you can view that scorecard. You can see that they are, I completed it on September 18th. We were in the silver category, and each of the categories are listed out with the scores alongside them. And you can go scroll down further and see which ones were checked and which ones were left unchecked. And it will go through all of the categories that are just on the scorecard. So this scorecard online matches up exactly with the scorecard that we would print out in PDF format. So any questions on, I'll show you what entering the scorecard looks like. So if we're going to add a new scorecard, let's say I'm doing a school today and we just went in, you would go in, you would select the school. So you have to enter your school into your account before you can enter a scorecard. Does that make sense? So let's say we'll do Northridge again, and then you have to click which grades are served in the lunchroom. So we've got kindergarten through 5th grade. And then whatever kitchen type, and we have a full cooking kitchen in Northridge. The other options are a heat and serve, or a prep kitchen, like if you have a central kitchen, and then, or if there's no kitchen where all of the food is brought in or catered or something. But we've got a full cooking kitchen in Northridge. And then click the date on which it was completed. And if the staff, the cafeteria staff had ever done training, so I'll say no at Northridge. And then here's the scorecard. So then it's just a toggle back and forth to click on what, how they've scored on the scorecard. So that's really slick and handy. And again, it's a mobile version too. So you can have an iPad, or if you've even got a computer with Wi-Fi or a phone, you can complete the scorecard online as you're doing it. And then you can also upload images that are that go along with each of these categories, which is nice. So what do people think of the online scorecard and the scorecard tracker? Has anybody uploaded a scorecard yet? Thumbs up or thumbs down if you've uploaded a scorecard yet. Sue asked if there is a spot for comments, and I don't think that there is. Let's go all the way down. I don't think that there is, Sue. The only way that maybe we could capture any comments is if you maybe have a comment thing written on a piece of paper or something. You could upload an image of that or a PDF of that. That might work.
Okay, Jan, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
So there's no spot for comments. I see there's a spot for images. What was I going to ask? Oh, is there a description for what they mean by these in like a WellSat tool? There's an actual description. So for example, if you go up and it says something about fruit and vegetable taste tests over the year, it'll describe what that means, if the fresh fruit and vegetable program counts as part of those, or is it just our discretion?
I see. Yep. No, there are no descriptions of it. A general rule for a lot of the scorecard strategies is that it kind of has to be, it's not associated with any other program. So fresh fruit and vegetables is not, would not be considered the taste test. It would have to be coming from the lunchroom during the lunch period, kind of a thing. And then all of the other strategies, like if it says, when it talks about whole fruit is um, offered at the point of sale. So fruit is offered in at least 2 locations on all service lines, one of which is right before the point of sale. So let's say they do that only on Tuesdays. You know, most likely we would make a note of that on our scorecard. We would say they offered on Tuesdays, but we wouldn't be able to check that because it's not all of the time. Um, so it's those kinds of strategies. It kind of has to be across the board in the lunchroom, those kinds of things. Does that answer your question, Sue?
Yeah, so if you have that example with it only being offered on Tuesdays, is that something you'd write on a piece of paper and then upload as a JPEG or?
Yep, yeah, I likely would.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Good questions. Thank you. Other questions?
Sarah had a question too. She said, is there a way to print this out?
I do not know. Well, the online form, I don't think that you would print out. I think that it would just be printing it, printing the actual PDF of the scorecard. So let's see.
Now, there is a paper version, Sarah, that is included in our Google folder as well as on the Smarter Lunchrooms website. So, say you've got your team going into a school that's going to complete this, and you didn't want to do the electronic tracker right away, there is a just a regular scorecard you can print out.
So maybe we could, this is Sue, maybe we could print that scorecard out, make notes on that, and upload that as a file if we have comments by each of the little questions.
Mm-hmm. That would be a good, yeah, that would be a good suggestion for that, yeah.
One other note I wanted to make about the electronic scorecard, when you are creating your account, it will ask you when your TAP training was. So just to be aware that you'll need that little piece of information. I think the majority of you were trained this last April of 2017. So you will need that date in order to sign up.
Yep, good. Thanks, Nikki. And then, so when you are doing your scorecard online, you can save it as a draft. So if you need to come back to it, or if you're waiting on getting some pictures or finding out some info from the main office, you can save it as a draft and then come back to it and edit. Once you're done with everything, you can click Save, Publish, and lose edit access. So that means once we click this button, then I can't go back into the scorecard and change my answer or say yes, we do provide recess before lunch. So just knowing that we won't be able to modify it once we submit. Oh, it says you can download and print them at any time. So let's go try that. I'm going to go to my scorecards and then view, and then, oh, here's a download PDF, Sarah and everybody. So once you click on a specific scorecard, you can download the PDF and it will give you a completed scorecard. Huh, there you go. Oh, and look at there, there's notes. I wonder. So once you print then, Sue, we can put our notes right there. So if you'd like that, or you can upload your file with the notes on them. Either way would work.
So you mean handwrite your notes in there?
I'm thinking so because I don't know where we would edit that online. Yeah.
Okay. So this is not a working document. This is something that we're going to do once and then work with them on making improvements and then come back at a later date and do it again and see if they can move up the ladder as far as certificates and award levels?
Yep, yep. So you'll see here on my screen, Dorothy Moses, we did the 28th of February, and I did it again May 9th, and it's got the scores for each school. So if I get into Dorothy Moses again this fall or next spring, their previous scorecards will be in there, and hopefully we can kind of continue moving up the ladder with their scores. And so each time you do a scorecard, you would put it in, whether it's pre, post, or starting new or something. So
Is DPI doing anything with this information?
no, this is Cornell. This would be the Smarter Lunchrooms organization that this is their stuff. So North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, they don't have access to any of this.
Are they running their own award program?
The sub-grant for the Smarter Lunchrooms grant program?
No, like the Healthier U.S. School Challenge, or are they doing anything like that still through DPI?
They are, but they are mainly coordinating with Smarter Lunchrooms. So their grant programs and their some of their efforts are targeted to Smarter Lunchroom strategies.
But not this particular scorecard.
Well, to apply for their sub-grant for Smarter Lunchrooms, you have to complete a scorecard, this scorecard.
So in the end, they will know who has done it and what level of award they've received?
Yep, only if they're applying for that DPI grant.
Okay.
Yep.
Got it. Thanks.
Yes.
Are there any press releases that go with this, Jan?
There are. We've got some press releases on the Google Drive.
Okay.
Yep, I think there's one actually. And then there's also an email template. If you're kind of just getting into a school or just making your initial contacts, there's an email template along with the press release template. And some of those press releases, like getting it into, if you have a school newsletter or a district newsletter, it might be a decent idea to get into those kinds of avenues too, not just like media stuff. All right, any questions with creating an account, logging in, scorecards online, tracking them? Any other questions with that? All right. And it really is kind of one of those things where once you're in it and doing it, it's a little bit easier than it kind of looks at first. So just jumping in and getting going on it will, you'll find out that it'll be, you can do it no problem. Okay, so next thing we'll chat about is just some of the resources that are on the Smarter Lunchrooms website. If you go to scroll down on the main page, it has the National Smarter Lunchrooms Handbook. And it is a PDF document. It's got a lot of information in it. So if you download it, it's a lengthy document. It's full color, so it is a little bit expensive to be printing. So it's 52 pages, but it really does have a lot of good information in it. So even if it's just something that we are kind of perusing once in a while, getting talking points, those kinds of things, it is handy to go through. You can also pull some statistics, or you can pull some quotes when you're talking with people, creating your teams, and that kind of thing. So just kind of getting a little bit familiar with the handbook. And we don't, Nikki and I don't have much in the way of funding to like be printing for you. But if you guys have questions about anything, we'd be willing to chat and work with you and try to figure a few things out. So the handbook is there for a really good resource. And you can also point people in the direction to the Smarter Lunchrooms website too. So if you have meetings, initial meetings with people making some contacts, direct them to the Smarter Lunchrooms website. Then they can kind of check things out for themselves a little bit. If it's a principal or a wellness committee member or something like that, they can access quite a bit from the website as well. Another thing under the scorecard and tools is printable signage. So if you click on printable signage, you can download these images and have them in the lunchrooms, which is kind of handy if you don't want to be creating your own images or graphics or buying any. So you can just download and print from the website. Veggie of the day, fruit of the day signs, those kinds of things. So it's kind of handy. And then another one under the tools section is descriptive names. So during the training, they talked about that I think we did that exercise where we had to name a menu and give them different ideas. So again, here is just some of those descriptive, catchy names that we can kind of pull from so we aren't having to rack our brains on figuring out what we need to call bananas or something. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how comfortable is everybody on the Smarter Lunchrooms website? 1 being not comfortable at all, 5 being the most comfortable. And so go ahead and 1 through 5, how comfortable are you with the website? 1, not comfortable, 5, very comfortable. All right, we've got some 3s coming in, so right in the middle. Okay, and some that are a little bit less comfortable. Good deal. Okay. So it seems like everybody is kind of right in the middle with comfort level with the website. If we want to just have a little bit of discussion as to what Nikki or I could do, or if it just maybe takes a little bit of time navigating it on your own. So if you guys want to share a little bit about that. Yeah, okay, those are all good comments, Ellen, Dina, and Sue, thanks. So yeah, once you have things lined up with the school, then you're kind of motivated a little bit to spend a little bit of time getting to know the website, getting to know the scorecard a little bit better. And I think that stuff will, you guys will be able to definitely figure that out when the time comes, so.
I would say too, Dina, that's a great point. It's hard to say until you actually need to go in and use it. If you do find yourself struggling a little bit once that time comes, feel free to call Jan or I or email us, and we can kind of help to hopefully walk you through things if you should need that. Good to know. Don't be afraid to call and ask.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so those are kind of the main things I wanted to point out with the Smarter Lunchrooms website. Go ahead and chime in with any other questions or concerns or comments or anything. But I did just want to give you all an update on the Smarter Lunchrooms subgrant from DPI. They were due on the 29th, last Friday, and I spoke with Stephanie Miller, the gal who oversees the grant program. She said that they are going to be making decisions today and tomorrow. And so if anybody did submit a grant or encourage a school to submit a grant, we'll find out very soon. Anybody on the call, do they know of a school that submitted a grant from DPI? All right, Keely says West Fargo Schools, Maple Valley, and Carrington. Good. Keely, do you want to share a little bit about some of those programs if you know of any of the details?
Sure. I know that Dana in West Fargo submitted for all of her schools again. She is really trying to, they started using the app for, their meals this year. And so she wants to bring that more into the lunchroom as well. So there's a program where she can connect a lot of that information to screens within the lunchroom setting. So she's going to try to do that, and then also can use some of like the different marketing tools, to promote fruits and vegetables through that program as well. And then in Maple Valley, I know he was really wanting to incorporate a flavor station in his lunchroom. And then I think he was just going to get some other things because they're moving from their 3 different schools to 1 school next, or they're starting that. And then Robin in Carrington, I'm trying to remember exactly what she decided to move forward with, but I think it was more like decoration stuff. I think she did some fruit shoots for the end of the line by the cashiers as well. So I know she was working on the breakfast one and this one at the same time. So she was trying to figure out what to apply for in both of those.
Gotcha. Very good. Thanks, Keely.
Those of you guys who don't know, Keely is with SEEK, Southeast Educational Cooperative. I'm saying that right, Keely?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And she does a lot with Smarter Lunchrooms, and she was actually she's just going to share a little bit about her experiences and what she's been doing with Smarter Lunchrooms. She's had a little bit more experience in it than I would say the rest of us have. So we were going to allow her to share a little bit, and then hopefully you guys will have some questions or your own stories to chime in with. So Keely, go.
Okay. You want me to go?
Yeah, I'll leave it open to you.
Okay. So one of the big things that we did last spring was what we called Ready for August and May training that really focused on the 6 principles within the Smarter Lunchroom movement. And kind of, for all of us who sat through the, day-long or 2-day-long training to become a TAP, tried to condense a lot of that information down for more of like the head cooks, and then also maybe some of the assistant cooks that are within the schools that we work with. So we really wanted to just do some baseline trainings with those that were interested. And so we did one in Minot, one in Jamestown, and one in Bismarck. And they went over really well. And I think it was just because they were just, getting those snidbits of information as to what things they could take back. And so really trying to offer some of the strategies within those different principles. And then we didn't really dig a lot into the other 4 pieces, like the plan it, do it, evaluate it, or spot it, or whatever those ones are. But we did focus on the spot it and did some different pictures of lunchrooms and asked them to identify some of the positives and then the negatives that were found within those pictures as well. And then it also then gave them a good time to network with one another as to, oh yeah, we did this or we tried this and this is how it worked for us and this were some things that didn't work. And I think that was probably one of the most valuable things that came out of the training, as far as like our evaluations went, was just that piece of the networking time that they were allowed to have. So then what we did at the end was we put together kind of an implementation action plan, I would say, and took all of the 6 different principles and laid out the strategies that went with those different principles and had them go through and mark whether or not it was something that they already had in place, if it was an opportunity of something that they could possibly do at some point. And then we also had them look at prioritizing those opportunities and ask them just to look at prioritizing 1, 2, and 3. What are 3 things that you can go back and do starting in August or whenever your school year would start back up? So then some of those items or some of those different strategies had some items or that went along with it. So maybe it was, increasing fruit on your line. And so there was like a fruit bowl. Or maybe it was to decorate your lunchroom a little bit more. And so we had a bulletin board with some, a bulletin board set, My Plate bulletin board set that went along with it. Or if it was the catchy names or descriptive names, we had these little kind of insert things that you can magnetize onto or stick onto a salad bar or someplace on your line where you could put in some of those creative names, some menu boards, things like that. But some of the strategies did not have an item that went along with it. And so, those were still things that some schools wanted to go back and do, and maybe it was surveying students, and that's really what they wanted to focus on. So they were still picking some of those priorities that didn't necessarily have a strategy item that went along with it. So then in August, followed up with all of the schools and got them their items, at least before school started, and then have asked them to send pictures as to when they start using those items or, how they look on their lunch line or in their lunchroom, depending on what things they selected. So just trying to do some follow up with those different sites right now too.
Hello, Sarah. I was just going to ask that question for you. So that presentation you were talking about, Keely, is that something you guys would be willing to share for our educators to use in their schools?
Yeah, definitely. We're hoping to do some more rounds of it, especially within our SEEK area. So depending on, where you're located across the state. But yeah, that could definitely be something that we can share. And most of like the speaker notes and everything like that are in there of what we did. But yeah.
Sarah, do you want to unmute and share what you guys have planned coming up?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Well, yeah, I guess Ramsey has been a lot of things.
Okay,
Sarah, you are
kidding.
really, really quiet.
Yep, just kidding. We can't hear you anymore.
How about now? Can I talk louder?
You sound really muffled.
All right, did that do anything? Hello?
I'd like to say it's great, but it's not quite there yet.
Maybe go back to typing.
Maybe while Sarah's typing, does anybody else have stories or questions or
if you guys have anything planned, or have questions about what you have planned or anything like that.
Do not feel like you have to type it. We'd love to actually hear from you as well. So Sarah had posted their local schools had been interested in smarter lunchrooms or is interested in smarter lunchrooms. So they kind of asked them to put together a training for their staff, introducing them to the concepts, introducing them to how smarter lunchrooms might be implemented in their school. So that presentation Keely was talking about sounds like a great fit in that. And it's Sarah and Brenda Langerud that are putting that together and presenting.
Yeah, and I think it's a fairly lengthy training you guys are planning, right, Sarah? Like a few hours even? And they're looking to earn credits and not having to travel for it. So, yeah.
And I think when we did ours, it was like 4 to 7 o'clock, and we gave out certificates for hours after they went through that too. But it's definitely something too that you could break up. You could do some of that information and then come back and do a scorecard and do the implementation plan, or however you wanted to focus that. But obviously, that was all fit within our time period too.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't do the scorecard. That was something that we said we could come back and do. This was more just that baseline general information.
Keely, this is Sue, and I'm pretty close to the Tower City schools, just in terms of location. So if they need help with anything and Cass can't come out and help, I surely would love to.
Okay, great, Sue. Thanks.
So who's got plans for implementation this fall?
This is Dina, and I have plans to go into the Hazen School, both the elementary and the high school.
Excellent.
That would be good. And Dina, that will be really nice to see because a lot of our efforts have been focused on elementary schools, so the high school will be a good perspective. So I'll be eager to hear about that.
I think it's because in the smaller schools, and I don't know if this is true everywhere, but they have like one person who is the head cook who does the planning for all the schools. She particularly asked if we could do the elementary school, but she said, I'm really more interested in seeing what we can do in the high school. So,
Good.
Was her idea.
Good deal. That's great. Yeah, and Maxine, it's on her to-do list, and then she's looking to schedule some time with school administration. And then also knowing, Maxine, that school administration doesn't necessarily need to be your first point of contact. So if you already have a network created within the school that you're looking at, or if you know of somebody who might be interested, even having those initial conversations with that person, it could be a start there too. I'm not saying that you don't contact administration, but if you already have a contact in there, then, start up that conversation with them too. Ah, very good. FCS teacher. Great start. All right, anybody else have anything they you want to share? Any plans, any struggles you've come across, anything like that?
I think Jan and I in particular, not that we don't want to hear successes because we really, really do. But if there's challenges or struggles that you're having, if you'd share those so that we can better tailor these calls to helping you to maybe solve those challenges or to do some brainstorming with the team on overcoming those hurdles, that would be incredibly beneficial for us as well as everybody else on the call too.
All right. Well, if anything does come to mind, feel free to, email Nikki or I, give us a call anytime. And then we're hoping that we can just kind of keep these discussions open and free flowing. So we're all just kind of learning as we go with this. It is still relatively new for us. But, start those conversations and keep on rolling. So it'll be good.
I think before we say goodbye, I did talk to Megan earlier today. She unfortunately wasn't able to join us, but she did want to give a little heads up to the group that Brian Wanzik, who is one of the researchers for Smarter Lunchrooms, is in the news once again. So there is a possibility of schools reaching out to you and asking questions about it. Unfortunately, it's not great news. It's people kind of questioning some of his research. We're not really concerned about the validity of Smarter Lunchrooms. We've seen it tried and true working, but just being aware that Brian is in the news once again. So if you do have schools reach out to you or people questioning, feel free to send them over to Jan or I, and we can hopefully answer any questions that they might have surrounding Smarter Lunchrooms.
Yeah, and any info that we have, we'll share with you guys as well. So
definitely. But other than that, thanks for joining us today. We'll let you guys out a little bit early if there's no other questions. If something pops up, I think we'll be on another minute or two here. But thanks for joining us on a Monday morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Have a good week.